Wow, this sure is an impressive forest. I'm glad I went out for a hike today. Almost as impressive as this new device that I got.
I will never compete with the Steam Deck.
Whoa, were those the voices of the spirits? What's your wisdom, spirits?
The Steam Deck killed handhelds forever.
Well, that's just rude. Is it true though? Brought to you by CuriosityStream. Around 2013, American tech startup Tiled raised money through pre-orders to commercialize a tracker that could use anyone with the app installed as a mesh network. In 2021, Apple revealed the AirTag, a tracker device that uses every iPhone as a mesh network, which drew some criticism as Apple could lean hard on its existing ecosystem to kill the small company. Here's another story. In 2015, French startup Shadow was formed to provide an innovative cloud PC solution that I happen to find pretty promising. In 2021, after bigger companies entered the cloud gaming space, including Microsoft, who were able to integrate it into their large Xbox ecosystem, and the Game Pass subscription, they were forced to file for bankruptcy. Modern technology is expensive to develop, and ironically cheaper than ever to final consumers, a trade-off afforded by large ecosystems that allow big companies to generate revenue over long periods by keeping people locked in. This inevitably pushes all interesting ideas into consolidation and makes it very common for small companies to experiment with new niche ideas, only to get wiped by a big player when the market potential is proven. In 2021, Valve announced a very affordable handheld PC gaming solution, a niche that was mostly limited to smaller Chinese companies, and many of you questioned if any of those small companies could survive at all. And of all the companies scrambling to find their footing after Valve's bombshell of an announcement, China's company Gamepad Digital might be in the best position to survive. A lot of their star products have been gaming handhelds that suddenly became really difficult to justify when compared to the Steam Deck in price, as they do not have the resources or ecosystem to sell them at comparable prices. But GPD has also made a series of rather successful and charming pocket laptops for extreme portable productivity. And when they mashed these two product lines together, the result was the GPD Win Max, an extremely weird looking laptop handheld hybrid that I absolutely love. And now that they have upgraded this product line, this might actually be the best chance they have to survive in a post-Steam Deck world. In the most reductive terms possible, this is exactly the same as their existing GPD Win Max, at least on the outside. But just like in love, what matters is in the inside. Traditionally, GPD has been a company that has been very reliant on the state of Intel technology for their small computers, but it is not a secret that AMD is making some really impressive progress with their APUs, all the way to Valve using them to power their new baby. Confronted with the decision of keeping themselves Intel or going AMD, GPD did something really unexpected.
¿Por qué no los dos?
Several options! The same device on the outside, but you get to choose what is on the inside, between an i7 that gets it closer to the latest pure handhelds and a rather impressive AMD APU. Not only that, but they're offering people the option to buy the upgraded motherboard for existing owners of the GPD Win Max to upgrade themselves, with detailed instructions, and that way they can avoid buying an entire new device. I wanted to mention this because given the associated e-waste problems of the super short upgrade cycles of laptops and technology in general nowadays, I would love for this to be a thing that catches on. Now, with Intel, you get modern Intel Xe graphics and Thunderbolt support, which gives it a mechanism to connect to an external GPU to those with the cash for a really weird workstation. I got the AMD model. Apparently, shortages limited GPD from using some of their newer APUs, but they compensated by adding a really beefy APU. This is an 8-core CPU! Holy shit, this might be on paper one of the strongest CPUs I have ever owned, on this tiny device. Wait a moment. You're telling me this is no longer low spec? I guess it's time to join the master race then. Time for some high graphics and high frame rates. Huh. It's almost like you can't judge these things just based on one component. Now, I could set up the question of just how well it does on games, but for 90% of you, I wager there is one question in your mind and one question only. How does it compare to the Steam Deck. So this CPU is a bit of a monster. For comparison, the Steam Deck has 4 cores and 8 threads of the same exact architecture, so this packs double the CPU power. But the GPU is a different story. Valve's machine uses 8 units of RDNA 2, AMD's newest GPU technology, while this device has 8 units of the older Vega architecture. It can be very difficult to know how much of a performance difference this is going to make just based on that. The only devices available in the PC space with RDNA 2 are large desktop GPUs, and for small devices, TDP matters a lot. Mobile chips are often designed to work within certain thermal constraints, which is measured in watts, and trying to get the best they can within those limits. While a desktop chip can easily generate hundreds of watts, the Steam Deck is limited to initially a maximum of 15 watts. AMD has said in the past that one of the best features of the RDNA 2 architecture is how much performance per watt it can squeeze, and there seems to be truth to the marketing. Valve has given some hands-on time with some other YouTube creators. My invitation must have been lost in the mail. Yeah, that is definitely what happened. Thankfully, Linus from Linus Tech Tips was there and made some quick comparisons using Doom Eternal on medium settings and static resolution, getting a very impressive 50-something FPS on a completely static scene. On the same scene and settings, it is not quite as competitive, but not bad. Doom Eternal is tremendously flexible, and you can easily drop the settings to a still decently looking low and enable dynamic resolution for a pretty close to 60 FPS experience. Nice. In fact, Doom Eternal is a bit of a cheat for this comparison since it is extremely well optimized, making it dangerous to jump to any conclusions about this device or the Steam Deck just based on this one game. So, let's kick it up a notch. Recent Assassin's Creed games are a tremendous workout for any low-end computer. They're way more demanding on both the CPU and GPU than Doom Eternal, and much more difficult to run at higher frame rates. This device can easily, at the same 15 watt, get a 30 FPS lock on low settings, but it takes some creative resolution settings, which even on a screen this size can look annoyingly blurry. This game could really use some of those better resolution scaling options, huh? What we can do is boost the TDP up and throw battery life out the window. This device has an excellent cooling system that can get a little bit loud, but it can definitely keep up with higher TDPs. And a much higher 25 watts, we can now either go for almost 60 FPS on the really blurry settings or 30 FPS on a much more comfortable resolution. Not a bad result. I will not be surprised if the Steam Deck can produce similar results on a lower TDP. Oh, so how much are we paying for the privilege of this hybrid handheld? About $1,000? Okay, look. I know everything I have said until now kinda makes it sound like the Steam Deck is the better option in almost every regard, so how is it that I started this video saying that this is GPD's best chance at survival? Well, if this was just a handheld, that would be a different story. But it is not that. In my discussion video of the Steam Deck announcement, I commented that one of the major issues with using Windows on a handheld is its difficulty to use it with a touchscreen rather than a mouse and keyboard. While I'm sure there will be a lot of people that will get a lot of productivity use out of the Steam Deck in dock mode, I have my doubts about getting much work done in handheld mode. The trackpads help, but I don't think anyone will be editing a video this way. The WinMax is also a laptop, and that makes all the difference in the world. Allow me to explain with an example. This is my camera bag. I wanted to have one bag with the minimum amount of gear I need to film, so that way I only had to grab one thing when I needed to shoot a video. And I wanted that bag to easily fit as extra hand luggage on a budget airline. But after I got this device, I could not help but wonder, why if I could add a full editing station to this small bag? In a weird example of weird luck, the perfect opportunity to test this presented itself. A few days after my review sample arrived, I left the city for a somewhat remote island, where I planned to stay until at least September, and I could only carry a minimal amount of equipment. Could this help me actually make that work? This was a daunting experiment for a variety of reasons. For this to work, this tiny laptop will have to wear a lot of hats. I wanted to be able to use it to edit small bits of the projects on different locations with usable battery life. I wanted to be able to use it as a more high-power editing station when plugged in, and be my only gaming device for this full month. A tall order considering I'm asking this of a device that could fit in a large pocket. This is difficult to even further by my own production workflow. Pretty much all of the videos you have seen from me this year were recorded in a really flexible but really resource-heavy video format. And I have moved all my post-production to DaVinci Resolve, an outstanding post-production suite that has a well-earned reputation for also being resource-heavy for an editing program. For normal people doing this kind of work, a high-power laptop is usually the way to go, especially given that those can be found with way more accessible pricing. However, these laptops are often heavier and require bigger power supplies, which quickly add in weight, and that is a problem. This place is called El Bosque de los Tilos, and it's coincidentally one of the places where the Witcher Netflix TV show was filmed, and specifically one of the locations for Brokilon Forest. Flying into this island with weight limits was already a challenge. Climbing all the way up here with a full laptop and a heavy charger was just not going to happen, but this, with just a USB charger, I barely felt it. Almost everything on the video you're seeing right now was worked on from this laptop. I wrote this whole script while using a 5-watt configuration for excellent general use performance and hours of battery life. I record bits and pieces of this video on the islands, I load the video files on the WinMax and make a quick edit test to see if it's fitting together. I edited bits and pieces in different spots of this island at 10 to 15 watts for extra performance. I take quick breaks and play The Witcher 3 under the shadow of Brokilon Forest, and then the next day I plugged in and I continue working on the video, and did the heavier editing while connected to a power supply and a portable monitor at 20 to 25 watts. With the exception of some specific tasks done by talented external editors like some fancier effects, almost every aspect of this video was done on this computer, all while it was also working as basically my only gaming outlet. Honestly, I did not expect this to work, so I'm very surprised. The keyboard is just the right size before it becomes really hard to use effectively, but I got very used to it barely after a few days. I thought the screen's more gaming optimized resolution was going to present a problem while editing short bits, and while it was significantly more uncomfortable than having a full laptop, it did fine considering the compromises of a pocket-sized device, and I really underestimated what it could do as a plugged-in full-power editing station. I used the following settings for my editing workflow, and the APU just freaking did everything I ask of it, with only a little bit of patience needed in some sections. This almost guarantees that for future trips, if my space is so limited that I have to choose between a handheld and this mini laptop, I'm very likely just going to take this device. When you conceptualize it that way and compare it to other novelty laptops with similar specs, at the right price, this device has a point. Okay, I understand, most people are just going to use a more powerful laptop with a bulky charger and all, so I think I'm stating the obvious when I say this is an extremely niche use case. But this is a niche GPT has been catering to for years, with no competition from a major brand. So focusing on the combined handheld laptop aspect might be their best shot at survival. And if their first AMD product is anything to go by, I think they're likely going to do fine. If anything, it guarantees handheld PC gaming is going to continue being really weird for a while, and considering how static and boring the PC space can get sometimes, I hope some of that weirdness rubs off to the rest of the industry too. And I hope those mini computers continue being weird, because who knows where else I might end up being that I might need my entire full editing station. In fact, right now behind me, believe it or not, this is where Arethusa, the Witcher school in the Netflix show, was filmed. They just added a giant CGI tower on top of that thing. And one curious thing is that on the original version that I have written for this video, I went way more into depth about both my fascination with mini computers and the efforts that I have made in order to try to portabilize my entire production system into just a couple of bags in what I call my Iron Man suitcase setup. But making a YouTube video with good pacing is almost as hard as speaking in this wind, so I actually had to cut it off in order to make it work with the format of YouTube. If only there was a service where I didn't have to worry about that and I just could put the whole thing in. Oh, there actually is! Look, it's back there! It's called Nebula! Nebula is a streaming service created by a group of creators in order to simply not have any restrictions. You can find full-length videos with no ads and extra content. You can find original content like my documentary on RuneScape Gold Farmers, which is one of the best pieces of content I have ever made. You can find my podcast Genesis, where I interview other creators to get their very interesting origin stories. And the best part of all of this is just how cheap and easy it is to get a Nebula subscription, because we did a strategic alliance with CuriosityStream. If you have never heard of CuriosityStream, they're a streaming service for documentaries and non-fiction content. Right before coming here, I was watching Triumph of the Nerds, which is a classic 80s documentary about sort of the golden 80s age of computer. And next I plan to watch Wonders of Asia, just to bridge me over while I wait until I can actually travel to Asia to record a video or something. And the amazing thing is that if you use my link to subscribe to CuriosityStream, you get Nebula thrown in for free. So that's like what you will expect to pay for a month of a streaming service for an entire year of Nebula and CuriosityStream. It's an amazing deal, and you will be supporting hundreds of creators building a dream. So what are you waiting for? Thank you to them for sponsoring the video, and you for watching.